I'm Cheryl Ann Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for those of us who still dare to want it all, who have big dreams and bold ambitions. I think we deserve to have a big, full life and the freedom to enjoy it. So let's design our next chapter together for brilliance, not burnout. Each week, I'll bring ideas, insight, and a fresh perspective to keep you growing into a life that feels as good as it looks. Brilliant Balance, your life, your way. Now let's get started. This is episode 392 of the Brilliant Balance podcast, how to keep moving through uncertain times. So welcome to the show. I am excited to sit down and do a brand new episode for you today. And it really feels like an important time to be doing one on this subject, given how much uncertainty is swirling in the environment right now. I haven't had a single conversation in the last several weeks that hasn't been grounded some way in this topic, right? And of course, because look at how many different places we have this extreme level of uncertainty. And I have lots of thoughts about it to share today, lots of ideas that I'm going to unpack with you. And before I get into those, I just wanted to share one other thing with you at the top of the episode, and then we're going to dig into all things uncertainty. And that is that one thing we know we need in times of uncertainty is clarity. And I am hosting a workshop, a live workshop on May 8th that is really focused on how to help you find that clarity. So mark your calendar for Thursday, May 8th, 2025. It's at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And this workshop is really about how to help you get clarity, even in times of uncertainty, clarity about what you want, and then ultimately the courage to go for it. So if you have not participated in a workshop with me before, this is a live workshop, a chance to be interactive, and really to learn some tools that I think is going to help you this year and in the years to come. So I'll link this in the show notes for you as well, but brilliant-balance.com is my website /clarity will take you right to the registration link where you can save a spot and plan to join me for that. It'll take about an hour, but I'm really packing that in with very practical model that you can use to help you find clarity to keep moving forward. So make sure you get registered, save the spot, come live if at all possible. But yes, there will be a replay. So even if you can't come live, if you get yourself registered, you can always take advantage of watching that replay at your convenience. Okay. So back to today's topic, which is about uncertainty and how we manage through these chapters of uncertain times. And I just want you to think about what it feels like when you know you're in a time where there's a lot of unknowns, right? A lot of variables. Have you ever gotten to the place where you feel like you just can't make a move? Like there's so many variables, there's so many unknowns that you just get almost like frozen in place, because that's what uncertainty can do. Right? It can almost paralyze us. And it happens to the best of us. It's kind of part of the fight, flight, or freeze response that when there is so much uncertainty, we feel so anxious that we can just shut down. And the question is, what if we could learn to keep moving forward anyway? Right? Even when we don't have a clear view of what's ahead, what would that open up? So given, like I said at the beginning of this, the environment that we're in, the current landscape of really global uncertainty, massive economic shifts, volatility in the stock market, like there's so many elements of uncertainty swirling around us. Layer on top of that, you may be personally in a chapter of uncertainty, right? So many things in our life can happen. Health scares, health changes, any kind of personal crossroads, changes within your work situation, your company facing volatility, right? All kinds of things can be playing into an environment where when it lands for us, like in our heart, in our mind, we can feel like we just are rudderless, right? And I certainly have gone through chapters of this in my own life where look, I feel like I deal with uncertainty probably better than a lot of people. I'm pretty good at making plans and contingency plans, and maybe you are too. But everybody has a breaking point, right? Everybody has a level of uncertainty that you're like, well, this is the one that's going to take me under, right? I just don't know that I can handle anymore. And I think that is amplified when it becomes more personal, candidly. Like global landscape changes, sometimes we can kind of say, well, everybody's dealing with this. Even if it's within our company, we're like, well, there's lots of people. But when it starts to really become deeply personal and that's layered on top, I think that's where the uncertainty can really kind of lead to complete inaction. So we're going to unpack today why uncertainty can be so paralyzing and what we can do to really stay resilient in order to keep moving forward. All right. Because uncertainty, whether we like it or not, and we don't like it, is a really normal part of life, right? It is probably the constant in life, but our brains hate it, right? Our brains, like literally our neurobiology hates it. We're biologically wired to seek certainty because certainty helps us feel safe. And when we don't know what's coming, our stress response kicks in and it can make us freeze up to try to avoid perceived danger or the threat of danger, whether or not it's really there, right? The neuroscience insight here is that the brain prefers a predictable negative outcome, right? In other words, we would rather know something bad is going to happen than have an unpredictable outcome where we're not sure if it's going to be positive or negative. Think about that. It's wild, right? Uncertainty is actually worse. The pain of uncertainty is worse than the pain of a known bad outcome because we have a part of our brain that gets activated. It's called the amygdala, if you're curious, and it creates this stress response that's even stronger than the one that is caused by known threats. So when we're in situations where we just don't know what's going to happen, our brains are super mad, right? Super worried. And we kind of sizzle out with this stress response. And there's a few times that we can get paralyzed when we're in uncertainty, or maybe better said, 3 reasons that uncertainty causes us so much stress. And I think if we can understand these, we can start to find a path forward. So one of the 3 reasons that facing an uncertain outcome shuts us down is we are afraid that we will make the wrong decision, right? If we're looking at it saying, gosh, I don't have all the available data. I don't have all the information I need. I don't have a crystal ball. What if I choose the wrong thing? What if I pick the wrong job? What if I pick the wrong investment? What if I say the wrong thing in this situation and it negatively affects the outcome, right? What if I don't do all the research and that causes me to make a misstep? So we can get really hung up on the fear that we're going to make a bad choice. And that fear leads us to kind of analysis paralysis, right? Where we're overthinking every option and therefore we're not making any moves at all, right? We're kind of researching and thinking about making a move, but we're like, oh, should I do this one or this one? Think about even in a business context where you're trying to make a business decision, right? I think about my days at P&G, we'd have to make like a pricing move. And you think you're running all these models trying to get more certainty on what's going to happen under the different potential choices you could make. But there was no moment of absolute certainty, right? Eventually, you just had to say, all right, this is what we're going to do. We've looked at the data to the best of our ability. We're going to make a decision and move forward. And I think the important insight here is we tend to overestimate the cost of a wrong decision. Like we feel like it's going to be catastrophic, and we underestimate our ability to recover or to steer, right? You can make some wrong decisions and you can steer. You can change your mind, you can pivot, you can course correct. But if you're not doing anything, you're just kind of a sitting duck, sitting there waiting for something bad to happen. So that insight that we overestimate the cost of a wrong decision and underestimate our ability to recover is really important, because if we trust ourselves and we think, if this does not work out, I will make the next decision, right? Then we can keep moving. And moving forward is probably the most important thing when we're facing uncertainty. The second reason that I think we get paralyzed in times of uncertainty is we really hate the idea of not having control, right? And we walk around, really, if we're honest with ourselves, with like an illusion of control a lot of the time. We think we know what's going to happen. We think we know how today is going to go or tomorrow is going to go, but it is in fact an illusion. And times of uncertainty kind of strip away that illusion of control. And that creates anxiety, and it creates almost like a feeling of helplessness. We think if I'm not in control, then I just don't know what to do. And so we kind of sit on our hands. We want like a guarantee of if I do this, if I do X, I'll get Y. And when we don't have that guarantee, we might think it's kind of pointless to act. We're like having a little mini temper tantrum about it and thinking, well, if I can't be in control, I'm not doing it. But it is actually helpful for us to learn that we can move forward without that guarantee, right? Otherwise, you fall into what's called learned helplessness. And learned helplessness is where when you feel a lack of control, you just give up entirely, right? We don't want to end up there. We want to be in a place where we stay in agency, even with imperfect information, even knowing we don't have full control, that we're able to kind of stay in some level of momentum. So if you are somebody who knows you like control a whole bunch, like I do, then that's one to really watch out for. And I think the third thing I jotted down that's like, why might we get paralyzed in times of uncertainty is we can really tie our self-worth or our sense of self up in specific outcomes, right? We can get really connected to being successful, and actually at a level where we're tying our identity to getting that outcome. So we start saying things like, well, if this doesn't work out, I failed, right? Which makes every move feel like it's incredibly high stakes. We're so attached to the outcome, right? And not only are we attached to we want it, but we think who we are will be different whether we get that outcome or not. But there's great research on goal detachment that says if we can let go of the goal, right, the kind of the rigid outcome, the need to have it be exactly what we want it to be, and we can stay flexible in our approach to that goal, then one, we're going to feel a lot better along the way. And two, we're going to protect for that important ability to steer, to course correct, to make modifications, right? So we don't want to be like, I've got one shot. This is my one shot only. Now I'm sitting here thinking about the rap song, right? I'm not throwing away this one shot. I want you to think about how you have lots and lots of shots, right? We don't have to tie our identity to our ability to nail it the first time. We can continue to steer, right? We can continue to move forward, even if our first attempt is imperfect. I want to talk to all my fellow business owners and introduce you to my friends at Mackie. They are experts in providing CFO services that give you the clarity and confidence that you need, not only to succeed, but to make those strategic decisions that transform your business. Listen, running a business can be stressful, and trust me, I get it. You always want more time away from work to do the things you love, but you also want more profit. And that's where Mackie comes in with their full service financial, accounting, and executive guidance. With their Prosper for Business system, you'll have a trusted partner by your side, combining strategic planning, data analysis, and goal setting to help you grow further, better, and faster. And their results speak for themselves. Mackie's clients experience an average first-year profit increase of over 100%, and business owners report a 20% increase in time freedom. So start your journey to prosper today. Visit mackieadvisors.com/brilliant balance and book your consultation. And so how do you do that? How do you keep moving forward? How do we shift into kind of a state of always being able to move, even when we're in really cloudy, really foggy, really uncertain times with lots of moving parts and lots of variables? And there are a few things that we can do. I'm going to talk about 4 of them because I think it's really important that there's something practical here. So we're not just I'm not giving you a pep talk on, hey, you can do it. I want to tell you how to do it. Okay. The first thing that you can do is you can make the shift from being outcomes focused to process focused. All right. Ask yourself the question, what's the next right thing I can do? Instead of what's the perfect end result. So I think of this as bringing in your line of sight. I've talked to clients about this for years. I work with a lot of women who are very long-term focused, right? I know I have my eyes on the prize. I know the goal. I know the vision. I know what I'm chasing. And so there's this sense of I'm not going to be okay until I get there. And when we can make the shift to what is right in front of my feet, What is the next move that I can make from where I am to move me forward in light of the current environment? And we focus on small, kind of values aligned actions, like one day, one decision at a time. Then it reveals clarity, right? We build courage. So that clarity about where are we going really comes through action. It doesn't necessarily come through thinking about it and trying to kind of get all the way there and close the gap in one move. It's like, what's the next right action? What's the next action after that? And then you almost don't know the third action until you take it, right? You take one, you assess the outcome, that informs your next move. So it's like chess. You can't always see 16 moves ahead because you don't know what they're going to do, right? You have to be responsive to what is happening on the playing field. And so that shift to be process focused instead of outcomes focused can be very, very powerful. Another thing you can do to keep moving is stay in agency, right? Really anchor into what you can control. In my work, I'm always talking with women about foundational practices. We all have a collection of foundational practices that we know keep us healthy and whole and feeling human, right? Routines, habits, rituals like sleep, right? Like our nutrition, like movement, like having planning time that we can use, right? Effectively, maybe time outdoors. These are little pillars that build a foundation of stability. That's why I call them foundational practices. And we want to use seasons of uncertainty to really double down on the rituals and the habits that create a sense of order. They will allow us to control what we can control. And when we are in habit, when we are using these rituals regularly, there's like a level of cognitive load that's reduced, right? Our confidence goes up because we know we're doing something that we can, in fact, control. And then also we can usually access the energy and the clear-mindedness that we need to keep moving forward, right? Uncertainty can be exhausting. And those foundational practices, like controlling what we can control, can be very reassuring. The third thing that we want to practice is psychological flexibility, right? Like this is what I refer to as both and thinking. So we don't want to get stuck on one side of the pendulum where we're like, this is devastatingly hard, right? Everything is so hard. There are so many things falling apart. And we can't live all the way on the side of, I've got this. Like, I got this. I'm a rock star. I'm amazing. You probably can't access that at a time of extreme uncertainty. But you can have both and thinking, which says, this is hard, really, really hard. And I will handle it one step at a time, right? Being able to kind of ask, what is for me in this? The psychological flexibility of not just saying, why is this happening to me? But what is in this for me, right? What's the lesson? What's the opportunity? What is the kind of little hidden blessing, the silver lining that maybe is buried in there that could lead to growth? So much growth comes out of times of uncertainty. But in order to access that growth, we have to stay in that both and thinking. This is hard, and I will handle it one step at a time, right? And then I think being able to sort of get outside of our thoughts to look at them is very helpful, right? Mindfulness practices, journaling practices, even verbal processing, talking it out with a trusted friend or a therapist, an advisor can really help to like widen our emotional lens on the situation and stay in that state of psychological flexibility, both and thinking. Okay. Think about how powerful that is. If you're getting hung up in one side of the equation, kind of, let's just take the woe is me equation. What am I supposed to do? This is a mess. I can't fix it, right? I can't just snap my fingers and make it go away. How am I going to handle this? Think about how activated your nervous system is in that state. And on the other hand, if you're saying like, this is easy peasy, I got this, look at me, you're like kind of lying to myself, right? Because I know that's not true. But the both and being able to hold the tension between both sides of that, very, very powerful because it resonates deep within us as it's true. It's hard and we will handle it one step at a time. And the fourth thing is do not go it alone, right? Times of extreme uncertainty or where we have a high fear of the unknown, these are not the times when we want to crawl into a hole and try to figure everything out on our own. These are the times where you want to name that uncertainty to someone to kind of diffuse its power. I do this all the time with the women who we're coaching. So do the other coaches on my team. You might share it with a colleague, a friend, a family member, an expert, but hearing yourself say out loud, like, I'm pretty overwhelmed by the level of complexity, uncertainty, unknowns, variables in this situation that I'm facing, is a very empowered thing to do. And it allows other people who have lived experience come in to help you. Okay. Now, there's a caveat on this. You want to be careful, or maybe just mindful, of who you let in. Because if you share your uncertain, difficult, challenging situation with somebody who is not equipped to support you through it, right? It can go sideways. They can sort of fan the flames instead of helping you diffuse the situation. So you want to be careful about who you're having those conversations with. I would think about who gets you, who understands like how you're wired, who maybe do you have some trust built with already if you're lucky enough to have that. And importantly, like who understands the situation. So if you're facing financial uncertainty, maybe you want to talk to people who have navigated financial uncertainty. If you're facing career uncertainty, you want to talk to some people who have deep expertise in navigating that. If you're facing health uncertainty, a parenting uncertainty, a relationship uncertainty, like you want to get yourself in the company of people who, when you have what I always say is N of one, like in your experiment, you've got one time you're going through this, you want them to have N of many. They have seen this before. They see the patterns. They can look for, they can kind of give you the perspective that you might not be able to access independently in a time of a lot of uncertainty. So I think if there's good news here, it's that we don't need a full map in order to take the next step. You only need the next step, right? And the courage to take it. That taking action, small sequential action, really reveals clarity. And you build your courage and you build your confidence by taking courageous actions. And you build resilience not by avoiding the whole storm, but by walking through it and having yourself learn that you can, in fact, do that. And sometimes that the only way out is through. So I want you to think about one place, maybe there's more than one. I think a lot of us have more than one right now, where you're feeling kind of paralyzed by uncertainty. And I want you to ask yourself, what is a small step that you can take today, leveraging some of the principles that I've shared to be able to keep yourself moving forward? Okay. It's a lot right now. It's a lot. And I don't want to pretend it's not. I think that's why I'm tackling this head on, is we are in a season of, it seems like every time we, open an app or turn on the news or talk to a friend or like just look at the world around us, there are so many things changing so rapidly. And we're all going to be here to walk each other through it. So if I can support you, if my team can support you, that's what we're here for, right? This is a very kind of high vibe tribe of women who are going to get through this together. And so stay connected. Please, by all means, reach out to me. You can, even if you just DM me on social media, I'm at C. Skolnicki. You can respond to this podcast. I'm so easy to find via the website, and come to that workshop that I'm hosting on May 8th. I think it's a great chance to get kind of some next level teaching on how to find the clarity and the courage that you need to keep moving forward, even in a cycle when things are really challenging. So again, that link is at brilliant-balance.com, which is just our website, /clarity. And there's probably a pop-up on the homepage by now for May 8th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And I really do hope you'll join me, because I am looking forward to sharing a lot of what I've learned personally and what I do personally to navigate chapters like this when they feel like they're going to take you under. Okay? That is all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.